20s once again, and not dropping a great deal overnight either.
Violence erupts in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, over the result of the country's election. Opposition supporters have taken to the streets as they claim the vote was rigged.
It's changed dramatically, the atmosphere in the last 24 hours. Really volatile now. We've had tear gas fired, shots fired. I think we got to go with it.
We report live from Zimbabwe tonight as the chance of a peaceful transition to a new political era seems to be ebbing away. Also tonight, a council in crisis talks about cutting services for adults and children as it runs out of money. The future of struggling retailer House of Fraser is thrown into doubt as a major investor pulls out. How the number of new grammar school places is overtaking new secondary places in some parts of England. And farmers demand emergency measures to safeguard food production as they struggle with the drought.
And coming up on BBC News, after a bright start for England, wickets have started to fall on day one of the first test against India at Edgbaston.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. Violence has erupted in Zimbabwe's capital city, Harare, as the ruling ZANU-PF party has won the parliamentary vote following Monday's general election. The result of the vote for the next president has not yet been announced. What had been an historic opportunity to welcome a new political era after nearly 40 years of rule by Robert Mugabe has turned ugly. Supporters of the opposition MDC party are claiming the vote has been rigged. The time is very nearly 6:15. Our top story this evening. Violence flares on the streets of Zimbabwe's capital over the country's election results. Also tonight, after a promising start against India, England's cricketers crumble after getting in a spin at Edgbaston.
Coming up on Sports Day on BBC News, British #1 Johanna Konta inflicted the worst defeat of Serena Williams' career, dropping just one game on the way to victory.
New grammar school places are fast outstripping the number of new secondary school places in some parts of England. That's according to figures compiled by the BBC. There are 11,000 more grammar school pupils than in 2010, and by 2021, if the expansion continues at the same pace, that would be the equivalent of 24 new schools. Here's our education editor, Branwen Jeffries.
North, the hot weather continues, though, further south and east, Fiona.
Helen, thanks very much. And that's all from the BBC News at 6. Now on BBC One, we can join the BBC's news teams where you are. Bye-bye.
Continent competes. The all-new European Championships, live from Glasgow and Berlin, starts Friday at 9 on BBC Two and BBC iPlayer.
Operation Canvas is the first case involving so many people in the use of drones to fly drugs into prison.
The prisoner was able to retrieve the package from the drone.
They have evidence, but what they want to know now is how to build the strongest case.
Prove it. You can't prove nothing. I've done nothing wrong.
When you get to court, it's like going into battle.
The Prosecutors starts with Prisons, Drugs and Drones, tomorrow at 9 on BBC Two.
Hello again, this is BBC News with me, Ben Brown. Our latest headlines. In the Zimbabwean capital, Harare, there have been violent clashes between security forces and opposition supporters alleging fraud in Monday's elections. Soldiers opened fire and at least one person has been shot dead. Northamptonshire County Council is tonight holding crisis talks amid concerns it will no longer be able to pay for services for vulnerable children and adults. It must save up to £70 million. The former leader of the English Defence League, Tommy Robinson, has been freed on bail after winning an appeal against a finding of contempt of court. The far-right activist received a 13-month jail term in May after he filmed outside Leeds Crown Court during a trial. Campaigners against anti-Semitism have accused Jeremy Corbyn of failing to apologise properly after it emerged he had shared a platform with speakers who compared Israel to the Nazis. The Labour leader said he did not agree with the views and that he was sorry for the anxiety and concern he had caused. BBC analysis of government figures shows the number of grammar school pupils in England has grown by 11,000 since 2010. The data suggests the equivalent of 24 new selective schools will have been created by 2021. Well, in a moment, time for Sports Day, but first a quick look at what else is coming up for you this evening on BBC News. And we're going to be focusing on those elections in Zimbabwe at 7 o'clock. We'll be live in Harare and speaking to an activist there who stood as an independent candidate for Parliament. And as protesters gather outside Northamptonshire County Council to oppose plans to cuts in services, we'll be talking to an expert in local government for her assessment of whether the situation will be repeated at other English councils, and if so, which ones. And Polly Mackenzie, director of the think tank Demos, and Stephen Swinford, deputy political editor at the Daily Telegraph, will be here with me to review Thursday morning's newspapers. That's all coming up for you on BBC News. Now, though, it is time for Sports Day.
Hello and welcome along to Sports Day. I'm Sarah Mulcairns. After